High school, we're going to say 10th, 11th, 12th?
Sure.
Okay, because ninth grade I was still in Jersey. And then because in 7th, I think maybe I have to back up a little bit, because I was living with foster families from age, what age? 7th grade. What is that?
7th grade.
13?
Like 12.
12. Yeah, 12 through high school.
Mm-hmm.
I lived with a series of other families.
Mm-hmm.
So, the end of 9th grade, I moved to Sylacauga, Alabama. Jim Neighbor's hometown. Do you know it?
No.
It's 45 miles southeast of Birmingham. And they had over 100 churches in a town about 12,000. Oh, it starts like that southern accent comes back. I don't know where that comes from. The principal was a former football coach and sheriff, doubled as a sheriff, so he had a gun in his desk drawer. And it was about 40% black and the rest white. And so, conveniently, they made sure the percentage was always kept like that, so they would lose all the elections and never gain a certain kind of power. It was pretty trippy. I mean, to come there from New Jersey was like another world. So, I was an outsider, is what I'm saying. I was an outsider, but I also like to take control. It's back to the interviews. I like to do the writing on my own, run the interviews, and I basically... I don't know what was going on with people there, but they didn't... I just took over the school, kind of. I became student council president. One of them, it was really good for being rebellious, but rebellious in the way that you're like from the inside out. They can't kick you out of school. You're not in detention. You're just like driving all the teachers and principals crazy because you're doing it according to the rules. You know, like they would say, hey, you want to read... for this supposed advanced English class, an abridged version of Dickens. And I'm like, I'm not reading an abridged version. Right. And then they had us wear, I mean, this is coming from New Jersey. I was playing field hockey, you know. Sports was a really important way for me to feel some control, too, and deal with the family background. And I remember I brought my field hockey stick, and they said, you can't use that. And they were using ones from 20 years before. I had this, you know, high-tech aerodynamic new curved. It wasn't that new. So, and they had, the playing field was half the size. You weren't supposed to be aggressive. And you had to wear these bloomers. I mean, it was like going back in time. These hideous white bloomer one-piece snap-up. It made everyone look ugly. Obviously, that was the point. Like, no sexuality, right? And what was it? Proposition 19? Yeah, I made sure that they knew the rule was you had to have unisex uniforms. That was one of my big triumphs. So I think I alienated a lot of people when I was there. But so what kind of crowd did I don't know. You know.
What was your
Outsiders.
reputation?
My reputation? Oh, that's the other thing. I just wrote an essay about my prom. I only went once when I was in 10th grade, and my date was in 11th grade, so it was a junior-senior prom, and I had just arrived in Alabama. I was a really popular guy, and they didn't know I was Jewish, because you're supposed to have a hooked nose and whatever. There's a certain look a certain way. Rachel Resnick, I mean, come on. No idea. And they were always saying things like about Jesus killers. It was, and then it was the religion in school. It was intense, you know. They had Christian Life Club that met during school because they had activities break or something. And I would refuse to go. So I would be sitting in the homeroom with retarded, I don't even know, are you allowed to say mentally incapacitated? What are you supposed to say, handicapped? Retarded. Okay. In the classroom with them, and the teacher would come over, how come you're not going? I said, I'm not interested. Not interested. Right. So there was a lot to protest against in that way. But I had to get in touch. You're asking what other people thought, because I had forgotten. But they all thought, I got in touch with them to help remember the prom and the surrounding decorations. I didn't remember the music. And they said, oh, you seem so happy. we just read this essay. Wow, we had no idea. You were always laughing and having a good time, and you know, ambitious and da-da-da. So I guess nobody knew. They just thought it was fun, and I would walk up to the school and people would say, Rachel, you're so crazy. So they would also whisper in my ear and, you know, say, I prayed for you last night, but that was another.
How did you find out you were good at writing?
I was just talking to Sam Dunn, who's a fabulous writer, recently, and because we just co-taught a class at UCLA in memoir writing, and we were, because some of these people were coming in and saying, I'm really impatient, I want to get my book finished in a year, and we're like, well, how long have you been writing? I just started. And we're like, we've been writing. I took my first UCLA extension class 18 years ago, and I wanted to write when I was a kid, and I remember, as far as being good, I remember being into it. You know, like those pieces of paper where it's like you draw on the top part and then it's these big lines and you write your essay. I was laboring over those as a kid, and I must have gotten a response. I must have, you know, because I'm sure attention isn't an element. But, yeah, so pretty early as far as that goes.
From teachers? And,
yeah.
Yeah. High school.
High school, college? For sure,
high school,
but
yeah. Even other.
Oh yeah, earlier, absolutely, yeah. Because I would just go off in my essays. It was like something else came over me, and sometimes the teachers would be like, "That wasn't the assignment," but they would do check pluses because so it had some kind of, there was an exuberance I was able to spill out on the page. It was, I think I had always loved writing and also reading, having that kind of, I don't know. Because I don't know how many people read anymore, but it was, I mean, to be able to say, I'm going to write about all this one day, that was like the biggest, like, you better watch out, Dad. It has a strong impact, you know? I think it really can. Even as a kid, people would get affected. I liked speaking in public, too, which is different than this kind of thing. I remember I took a junior achievement. I just wanted to get it out of the way that I wasn't interested in business in 7th grade. And it was true, I wasn't interested. I wasn't very good. But one of the things, we had to sell these trivets, and I would knock on people's doors and go in their houses, and they were shoddily made. Right. I wouldn't have bought them. Right. And I would end up just like hanging out with these people and talking. And they were like, I don't really want one of these. And I said, I know. I understand. But I did get to take a Dale Carnegie course, public speaking. How to win friends and influence people. As a 7th grader, there were like 5 of us in there with a bunch of businessmen, and it was revelatory. Revelatory.
Revelatory of what?
How much impact you could have as a public speaker, and how you could draw that from yourself, that you could even do that. I mean, we were holding our own with those business guys, partly because we didn't have the same defenses. And I think also, you know, it goes back to the being able to articulate things. I know that one way I survived, and I don't always like to think of my childhood being problematic, but I guess that's another thing where it'll be reflected back, you know. I think one of the ways that I survived and thrived was I was able to articulate. Anybody who would listen, whether it was a larger audience or on the page or in one-on-one.
Before I read your memoir, I read your fiction.
Go West or something else?
Your short stories in various collections. 3 different collections.
Oh.
I just went to the LA Public Library, put in Rachel Resnick, and checked out all the books. So I think there were 3 collections of short stories that you had a short story in. And then there's Go West. And I was struck by the similarities between your fiction and your memoir. How about you? Do you see what if any, of the similarities between your fiction and your memoir?
Well, there's no question there are similarities because I write close to the bone. So far, that's what I've done. And, you know, that's absolutely something that fuels my writing, too, is scraping away all the bullshit, like getting to... go for the jugular. And